Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Throw game for the win! Tyrese! The terror! Don't you open your mouth like that! You talk them through the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, gift dealer, wheeling dealing, limousine life, jet flying, son of a gun. Taylor's gone. Jonathan Taylor. Come on, touchdown, Indy.
Not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice.
I'm never taking a backseat to anybody and don't plan on starting now. Woo! I-U America. They got a football team now.
pretty simple. I win. Google me.
But there's no doubt about it, yeah, you mean Gene Okerlund. You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hey, sports fans, welcome aboard. Coming to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Election Day, Tuesday. Don't forget, get out to the polls, make your voices heard. Just giving you the quintessential public service information there. Yeah, I've got to do the same. I've got to find some time today to jet out and get that deal done. I'm just hoping the lines are not horribly long when I manage to get over to do that. So, yeah, make sure you do that. It's your American right, but it's your duty to vote. It's amazing to me how many people do not vote, but it's amazing to me how many more people moan and complain. If you don't vote, you got no voice, baby. And so that's just how that is. But that's as close as I get to politics, bro. But welcome aboard. Thank you so much for being with us here on this Tuesday. Another great show ahead of us. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News will join us, Chronic Hoosier, and Rick Bozich, normally with us on Wednesdays, will join today. A little schedule switcheroo to make his schedule work out. But then tomorrow on Wednesday, Dylan Sim will be with us, Kyle Nedrip. But Derek Mobley from ESPN, he is a long time director for ESPN, having directed multiple. Yeah, got a check. Let's see. Yeah, we've got a bad. For some reason, my microphone switched there. Let's get that changed over. How's that? I hope that's a lot better. Technology does some stupid things sometimes. But welcome aboard. Thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate you guys, as always. But as I was saying, Derek Mobley joins us tomorrow. He is a long time, 30 plus years, a director at ESPN. He's an IU graduate, by the way. But currently the director for Monday Night Football. Has directed, I think, 12 or 15 college football championships and so much more. And speaking of college football championship, today is not only election day, it's poll day, all right, out of the polls, but this is a much more important poll for a lot of people. That is the College Football Playoff Selection Committee's first poll. Comes out tonight at 7. I believe that will be on ESPN. Of course it would be. They host the games. So tonight
interesting to see where Indiana is going to end up. I think they end up in the same spot they are in the AP poll at number 8. That's my personal opinion, but we shall see. Currently, 4 teams from the Big Ten in the top 8. And the funny thing is, I think that Indiana is at least, I hate to use the word second best. I'm very interested about Oregon. I don't know how good they really are. First of all, that's because I don't think that there's truly a single team that stands head and shoulders above anybody else. Like we've always had that in the past, no matter what sport almost. But college football has seen an unbelievable landscape change of parity, which is incredible. I love it. And people will think this is a homerish opinion because I cover Indiana. It's not, but I think Indiana is better than Ohio State. I've gone on record saying that multiple times. Remember when I tell you, I think Indiana's going to go to Ohio State and upset them, not because this is not some homer opinion. I think that Indiana is a more complete team. They've got a game before then, so we'll wait till next week to jump, or actually 2 weeks to jump all over that one, because Indiana has a bye week in between. After this week's massive game with Michigan that will take place at 3:30 in the afternoon. It will be on CBS. And how about you get to tailgate a little bit longer, people, on a big day with Michigan in. So that is going to be something. A friend of mine, Brent, he's got something planned. They tailgate. I've got a group of friends that when you pull into the main, what I call the main entrance, there's so many entrances to the Memorial Stadium and the athletics parking areas there. But the entrance that is directly between Assembly Hall and Memorial Stadium, I think it's gate 4, kind of right across from the grass lots. But when you pull in there and there's a quick left, but right when you turn left, they tailgate right there. He always has something set up for the opposing team's buses, which all come in that way and then make that left turn down to the stadium. So he's told me that he's got something set up, and we'll see what that is. But hey to everybody jumping on, no matter how and where you're listening, we appreciate you as always. Whether you're on one of our great affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, the Ref down in Evansville, covering the southwest part of the state, or up in the region on the voice of the region, 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM, WJOB. And over in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne's sports station, 1380 The Fan. Make sure you keep it tuned right here, because there's no better place you won't get any better content the rest of the day. And everyone listening or watching on YouTube, thank you very much. Make sure you have subscribed and hit the notifications toggle and the like button. Zap, how are you? Love that name. Boy, that Zap Brannigan. Boy, that's like that's sounds like an electrical worker, but I love the name. Cheryl Sizemore, how are you doing today? Make sure if you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, reach out to Cheryl Sizemore. Her 2 decades of experience could be the difference in getting the home you want. Reach out to her, Cheryl, at IndyHomePros.com. She will take great care of you. I mean, personal care. She is one of the best that there is. And make sure that's what you need. You need people that will look out for you and do the best for you, and she's definitely one of those. Bill says some home cookings, Texas A&M Corpus Christi, 25 fouls, Purdue 7. Well, you know, Purdue was probably much more athletic. They have better players, but I will say Purdue had a 16-point halftime lead in that game, and that was cut down to 3 after a long shot by Texas A&M Corpus Christi, but then Purdue would eventually pull away. I think Purdue is going to be a fine team this year. They're going to be an NCAA tournament team. I just don't think that they're going to be as far up in the top of the Big Ten as a lot of people do. But I don't know how good the Big Ten actually is, to be honest with you. It's going to be interesting to see how teams come around. Because if you just look at football right now, you get a great taste of that. Iowa was a perfect example. They were, starting the season, but they have come around. They are playing pretty well right now, to be honest with you. They're playing as well as anyone. And this week, they get rewarded with a trip to beautiful Pasadena, California, but to take on a surging UCLA team. Speaking of a team that has gotten better, that is that's one right there. As much fun that we made of Deshaun Foster, hey, they went into Nebraska and beat Nebraska. And I don't care who you are. That's a tough row to hoe when you're UCLA and the season that they've had. So kudos, Deshaun Foster. And I noticed that Fox's Big Noon Kickoff is coming from Ohio State this weekend as they take on the vaunted Purdue Boilermakers. But they're not doing the game. That's the funny thing is usually Fox Big Noon Kickoff is at a site that they're going to do that game. They're like, nah, we're going to take a pass with good reason. So it's still a noon game, but Minnesota at Rutgers this week, also at noon. Michigan, of course, at Indiana, 3:30 on CBS. Maryland travels to Oregon for an evening contest at 7 our time, Eastern American time, Eastern Standard Time. Washington comes into Penn State. They're going to be trying to – James Franklin, man, he cannot win the big games. Pure and simple. He's lost to Ohio State for 8 straight years. His record in big games is it's not good. Not good. So, and that UCLA at Washington, that's next week. So it looks like there's a bunch of Big Ten teams that have byes this week. Indiana will have one after the Michigan game. There's been a lot of talk of Juju Lewis, and I'm the information I'm getting from the people I'm talking to is that he will not be visiting this weekend. Counter to any reports you have seen. I have not put that out on Twitter yet, but I plan to. But the information that I am getting is that he will not be visiting Indiana, at least not this weekend. But it makes you wonder with the season that USC is having, which it's not been great. They're struggling as far as play in the Big Ten. Their first year in the Big Ten, they're third from last. That's deep. 16th USC, Lincoln Riley. What's he make? $1 billion a year. They're 2-5 in the Big Ten, 4-5 on the season, and not good. Currently, I mean, they're behind UCLA officially in the standings. They haven't played the same. UCLA has another game to play yet, but not only USC trails UCLA, Northwestern, Michigan State. The only teams they don't trail in the Big Ten standings, Purdue, Rutgers, and Maryland, who are a combined 2-13 in the conference. What is Purdue going to do with their football situation? It's bad, and no signs that it's even going to dream of getting better. We've got to take a quick break. Up next, the man Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News will join us right after these commercial breaks. Appreciate you so much for being with us. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after these messages. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios. This segment is brought to you by The Ugly Grouper.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. And as always, it's customary, the great Mike DeCourcy joins us from the Sporting News. Mike, how are you, sir?
I'm well, Jim. How are you?
I cannot complain. If I was any better, I'd be Mike DeCourcy.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
I don't even know what to say.
Exciting time in the sports world right now, especially for college fans. Basketball tipped off last night with tons of games. College football in the throes of the season with the first college football playoff poll coming out tonight. Everyone talking about polls today. Getting out to the polls, half the people they care about one poll, and that is the CFP. which the AP poll came out yesterday, and Indiana finally into the top 10 after their huge win up in East Lansing, jumping in at number 8. Now the Big Ten has 4 teams in the top 8, which kind of weird to see this deep into the season. But the Big Ten is kind of weird this year, scheduling wise. Their top teams are not playing each other as much, with the exception of Ohio State, who will end up playing the 3 toughest teams in the conference, which is kind of ironic. Usually it's the Indianas of the world who used to have to play Michigan State, Penn State, and Ohio State, Iowa, Wisconsin every stinking year. And now they get a little breather from a schedule like that. But Ohio State is truly, they're getting tested, but they will be very deserving because they might be as tested as any team in the country with their schedule.
Interesting what you just said. They will play the 3 toughest teams in the conference. And that doesn't count the Michigan game. Think about that. I mean, when did like you certainly didn't think that you'd ever say that sentence 12 months ago. And now here you are in in November of 2024, and they've already rung up 2 of those 3 games and split them, losing by 1 out at Oregon and then winning at Penn State. And then the third comes next weekend. It's just a remarkable, or 2 weekends, I guess it is. It's a remarkable turn of events for Indiana to be the identity of that 3rd toughest opponent. But Ohio State certainly, if they get to the end of this road with 1 loss, whether that loss, whether they continue to go on and not lose any more games, if they get there, they will have a legitimate case for a number 1 seed, for the number 1 seed. It'll be interesting if they are able to do that, whether or not somebody that's undefeated but played a lesser schedule would be ranked ahead of them. We'll see. It's a long way away before we get to that. I will say that I know there's a lot of anticipation about this poll tonight, but there's still so much football to be played. I think it was Kurt Signetti, and maybe I'm wrong. I heard some coach yesterday say, "Who remembers what the poll was? The first poll was last year." Nobody remembers. I mean, all it used to do was make it a longer halftime for the Champions Classic or a longer in between game. And now the first poll doesn't come out in coincidence with the Champions Classic. So that's not a concern. I if I'm IU, I don't worry about that at all. I don't care if they're 12th or 15th. It doesn't matter. What matters is you win Saturday. Because if you win Saturday, you are right there for a berth. I mean, really, if you win that game on Saturday, then you are playing legitimately for a Big Ten championship or for a spot in the Big Ten championship when you go to Ohio State. But that game against Michigan, even though Michigan has not played well, you can't say it's not still a dangerous game. And you have to go out and play as they have played over the previous several weeks. That brilliant second half performance on Saturday, that was a real message to college football. And they have to continue to send those messages and not worry about whether they're received, because ultimately it doesn't matter what people want to do with you if you force them to take notice. And enforcing them would be by taking care of Michigan.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to win every game. There's no let up. Indiana has probably the least margin for error amongst anyone, but I think that the environment is going to be electric. Cannot wait. 3:30 game on CBS. It will be a blast to be able to cover that. But the importance is very, very thick, like a fog in the air. And I was a little surprised that Penn State did not drop a little farther than they did, because they just do not win the big games under James Franklin. And he is, and it's maybe it's a bad thing to get slapped with, but his record is what it is. And as the saying goes, you are what your record says you are.
I think that I believe that stat that they attack him with is a gerrymandered stat. What's your record against the top five? Well, what do you think it's going to be? They're the top five. I mean, you're not top five. Penn State has only been top five basically under Franklin one time when they had Trace McSorley at quarterback and Saquon Barkley in the backfield. It's the only time that they had one of the five best teams in the country. I don't think they do now either. But so your record against those teams is not going to be great. The problem is when the same things keep beating you. And that's what I would focus on if I were being critical of James Franklin, is that lack of ambition that they always display in those games. If you were winning those games by showing that lack of ambition, conservative, we win. Okay, I don't care how you win. You won. But when it's conservative, we lost again by another 3 points. It's the same thing every time, Jim. They're down at the 1 yard line and they run it through the middle of the line on 2 consecutive possessions. That may have been a tribute to Joe Paterno in the 1979 Sugar Bowl when Penn State blew a national championship doing that, but it's still the wrong choice. You try it once. If it doesn't work, you don't try it again, figuring you're going to get different results. If you don't move the pile on the first one, why would you think you're going to move it on the second one? At that point, you have to use deception, and they did not. And then on the fourth down play, they tried to use deception, and it was that play was an absolute disaster. They ran their terrific tight end short of the goal line, and everybody went to him, and they didn't really have an alternative. It was just a terrible sequence. But in that entire game, how many? I mean, I haven't seen a chart, but if you got to watch the game, and I did, I mean, I don't think Drew Aller threw the ball 25 yards twice in that game. And everything was conservative. And that ultimately, as I said, if you have a track record of winning like that, I got no complaint. The Steelers get criticized a lot for that. They make it so hard on their fans because they win every game that they win. They don't win every game, but every game they win, it's by 3 points or whatever. That's, it's a common complaint. But they win. If you don't win like that, you can't continue to play like that. And he has over an extended period of time.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see if the Big Ten and the SEC, which I suspect they will get. I'm wondering how many teams from each conference get in, because we know that is of great importance from a financial standpoint, from a branding standpoint, from just a lot of standpoints. They are the quote unquote kings of football, self-appointed kings of football, but they are by nature of achievement. And they want to make sure that, hey, we'll keep you in as long as you let us dominate how many teams we get into the poll and all of that. But
Jim, here's the thing. I mean, I went back over. I wrote a column about this when they were having their meeting in Nashville at the end of last month. And there was a lot of consternation in advance about the possibility that they would emerge from that meeting with a plan to assure each conference of 4 bids in a playoff that most likely would be expanded to 14 teams. And I argued very hard against that because it would remove the urgency in the regular season, because you could, hey, we're going to finish 4th. We're fine. We're in. You don't want to do that. You want the urgency. You want the suspense. And secondarily, you would delegitimize the playoff, because what if there was a year when you didn't have 4 of the best teams? But over the course of the college football playoff, the 4-team college football playoff, those 2 conferences averaged 4 bids a year. Now, in some years they got 3, in some years they got 5. Using the CFP rankings and current membership, they averaged 4 bids a year. And if you look at this season, they're most likely going to do that again. They're most likely going to get 4 bids each, because they're going to have 4 of the 8 together. They're going to have 8 of the best teams And then you have the automatic qualifiers from the other leagues. Notre Dame probably gets in as well if they continue to perform as they have. That's the way it should work. I'm not disputing that the SEC has 4 of the best teams. I'm not disputing that the Big Ten has 4 of the best teams. I believe they do, or or the 4 most accomplished teams. I was a little concerned when I listened in on their conference call last week, and they used the word best and they used the word eye test, and I'm like, guys, man, don't go here. You don't want to be talking about eye test. That's just that's bad form. That's why the NCAA selection committee gets it right, because they don't talk a lot about the eye test.
Yeah, I was on that call as well, and it was straightforward for the most part, but they still, like you just said, they left room for your questioning. You're like, what does that mean? What do you?
What it usually means is, is brand. It means brand.
Which is what I got to ask a question, and
I heard
what my question was.
Exactly.
Because there is without a doubt brand bias, usually toward the SEC. Then the Big Ten would be second, but there's no doubt. You look at these 2 lost teams, and everybody still thinks, oh, well, they're still great. And I'm like, well, they got beat twice already. So
exactly. That's exactly right. Exactly right. Brand should not come into it. And that's why the eye test should not come into it. I know there are a lot of people who think it should, but this is my line. And I'm sure I've said this on the show before. If the eye test mattered, we'd have, first of all, in order for the eye test to matter, you have to have perfect eyes. You can't be wrong. Otherwise it doesn't matter. So the eye test has to be right every time. And if we had perfect eyes, Jim, we'd live in a lot bigger houses. I used to say 15 years ago, we'd all live in big houses in Vegas. Now you don't even have to live in Vegas. You could live in Fishers or Carmel or Bloomington or wherever and just buy a bigger house, because you could press a button on your phone and win all your bets. We don't have perfect eyes. So the eye test should never matter. It should be about analyzing data, analyzing results, and producing a field of qualified participants. That's what it should work.
Yeah, and if they think for 1 second that people do not know and realize that, hey, if they can get Notre Dame in, they want Notre Dame in. If they can get Alabama in, they are going to get Alabama in. If, whomever it might be. Because right now the Big Ten is looking at sending 4 teams into this league, and Indiana's kind of a fly in the ointment for them, probably because they're not that brand that carries the big sway. But although they are the darling of college football right now, does that count for anything? Or because people don't realize, but when it comes down to it, most people want to see the big names in the big games. That's just a fact. But the fans of teams that are doing well always think that the Cinderella effect carries over. And I don't know how much it does, but I think it does when it's a potential upset of a big time team.
Well, I will say, I think one way to gauge that will come in a few weeks when that Ohio State game arrives, if Indiana goes into it undefeated. When you get there, watch the ratings on the broadcast. If it's a big noon game or a CBS game, or if it gets moved to primetime, whoever has the game, I'm not sure who will get the first pick that weekend. But when that game arrives, what are the numbers for it? I think they should be substantial, because Indiana, first of all, not only is Indiana playing great football, they're playing entertaining football. They're not winning every game like Iowa has in some of their better years. They're going out and putting up 40 plus in a lot of games. And so people will be excited to see that. And I think there'll be an element of Cinderella rooting interest. Cinderella does not always draw great numbers, but when Cinderella is really proven and accomplished, like you look at St. Peter's, when St. Peter's made the Elite Eight against North Carolina in 2022, St. Peter's, when they got to that game, people watched, because everybody knew that not only was Cinderella in the game, but that they had earned it. I mean, they'd gone through 3 big-time opponents at that point, and so people were intrigued. And I think Indiana I mean, you don't want to say it's St. Peter's because St. Peter's is a small private college in New Jersey, and Indiana is a major state university. But football-wise, they have not accomplished much in a long time. They had the great 2020 season. And that's pretty much the blip on the radar for a extended period of time. And now here they are knocking off Michigan State on the road, putting up 40+ in that game. And now entering their Saturday Michigan game with what's the line, Jim? I mean, they've got to be favored by 7+.
You know what? What did someone tell me? It was it was definitely higher than that. I thought it was 2 touchdowns, but
wow.
I've got to pull that up. I'm not a big bettor, so I would never
Yeah.
ever even look at that, Mike. Actually, because I'm a terrible bettor, if you want to be honest with you.
10.5. They opened at 10.5, and they bet it up to 12. How about that?
Yeah, and I do know that the Ohio State futures started out at like 13.5, 14.5, and I heard it's down to 10.5 already. So yeah, everything being affected, and Vegas has not had Indiana this year. They have not been right on Indiana. Very rarely, Indiana has covered, I think, every spread of the season, and substantially when you win by the margins that Indiana is winning by. And it's weird because Vegas is usually pretty good.
Well, but if they put up a 3-touchdown number on Indiana, Michigan State, say, I mean, they wouldn't get much action because it's hard to say, is Indiana really going to go on the road and beat a solid Big Ten team by more than 3 touchdowns? Well, as it turns out, yes, they will. But
I was surprised by the low number, 7.5 points. I was like, that's kind of low, man.
Yeah.
Although I guarantee you, when they jumped out to that 10-0 lead, people were just dancing in the streets, probably. As a matter of fact, Zach Osterman had a piece yesterday talking about, and I will say this, the microphones at Michigan State must be fantastic. He was exactly right. And they pump in just a little bit of the sound into the press box area, enough for you can hear you can hear the hits just a little bit. And IU, I really, really wish you would do that, because it's like being in a coffin in the press box at IU. I don't mean that. It's just you can't hear squat. Yeah. You cannot hear the national anthem. You can hear nothing. And it was really enjoyable to hear that. And it doesn't affect it. I was thinking, I'm like, do they really think that that's preventing anybody from working? I go, then how the hell does anybody get something done in Simon Scott Assembly Hall? Right. I mean, you're right there in the middle of it, but I love hearing that taste. But anyway, Michigan State fans started chanting overrated after that 10-0 lead. That did not age well.
Hey, I think what's happening with them is just tremendous, and I would love to see the game against Ohio State be for everything that it might be for. I mean, both teams, and remember, every game Ohio State plays is a survival game, because they can't be positive, even with the schedule. They can't be positive they get in with 2 losses. And so there's that.
I'll bet anybody any amount of money they want that Ohio State is in with 2 losses, especially if it comes to Indiana and Oregon. Because then if Indiana wins, they
can't be positive. So if they can't be positive, it's just
you never want to leave it in the hands of the NCAA or the CFP.
You can't be sure. So they're playing for that, and they're playing for their chance to be in the Big Ten title game, because they can get there with 1 loss and play Oregon, presumably undefeated Oregon. They can get back there, and they'll go into that game feeling like, hey, we lost by 1 point on their field. We crossed the country to play. Now they're coming to our territory. We're 3 hours down the road. We're going to have 60,000, 70,000 people in Lucas Oil. Bring it on. That's what they're playing for. And of course, Indiana's playing for an absolutely historic season every time they take the field now. So I would love for that game to happen. As you know, it's going to be played, but I mean that game, the game between an undefeated Indiana and a 1-loss Ohio State. That would just be tremendous for the Big Ten and tremendous for college football.
Of all the things that Curt Cignetti has said, done, which have been just awesome to watch, if Indiana were to make it to the Big Ten championship game, in which he prophesized on the Big Ten network at the Big Ten championship game a year ago, that would have to be the craziest thing in the history of college football. For a new coach to come into the absolute dead worst program in the history of Division I to make that bombastic statement and for it to come true, that would be nuts.
The craziest thing that's ever happened in college football history was like Roy Regal's running the wrong way 120 years ago, and now we're going to replace that. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, I'm thinking so. When it comes to Indiana football, as bad as they've sucked, absolutely. When you're talking about going to the biggest dance in the conference, heck yeah. Oh, man. We've got lots more coming up. We've got the great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News with us. Make sure you're giving him a follow and keeping up with all of the great content at the Sporting News, one of America's greatest and oldest sports publications. They've been around. They are no Johnny-come-lately, baby, and they're still there pumping out the content. We'll be back with plenty more right after this.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Homes Pro Teams by Cheryl Sizemore. We'll return
Andy
to
Moore
the
Honda is
Hard Truth
Bloomington's
Studios
number
for
one
more
Honda
with Jim
dealer for a
Coyle right
reason.
after these
Buy a new
messages.
Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's number one Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. The Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theUglyGrouper.com for more information.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Tuesday, joined by the great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. Make sure you're giving Mike a follow on Twitter at TSN Mike. And following the content at the Sporting News, one of America's greatest. How long's the Sporting News been around, Mike?
I think 138 years.
Oh, you've been there from the start.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I've
138 years. I did not know that.
I believe that's where we are. I could be over by a few years. I I lose track because it's so many. But we are the oldest sports publication in America.
That's awesome. And it's awesome that it's still going. I love it.
Yes.
The sporting news, it just, you hate to see what happened to Sports Illustrated because, you know, it just was one of those iconic things that should still be here. I grew up when I don't know what it was. I had a weird mind, I guess, when I was in high school. I read the newspaper. There weren't very many freshmen in high school reading the newspaper, but part of it was I had I forget what class it was, but some kind of general study class. But every week we'd have a quiz from current events out of the newspaper, and buddy, I was not going to lose. There was no way. And I would read that newspaper and loved it and got into the hat. And I just love, to this day, if I go someplace, there's a paper, I grab that thing and, just sit down and just read the newspaper or whatever publication it might be is just, I miss it. I've got to be honest, but at least they're still putting out great content.
Well, yeah, the Newark Star Ledger is stopping to print, and there was consternation about another blow to newspapers. Look, I'm not such a dinosaur that I think that's really true. What's important is that the staffs of those papers continue to produce content and that they do a good job. That's what's really important. How you consume it. Look, you mentioned about your reading in the newspaper. When I was in high school, I would get every time I was in a study hall, I would get a library pass, and then I would go down to the library and I would sit in a chair and I would read the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette from cover to cover every time I had a study hall. Reality now, I wouldn't even have to get the pass. I could sit in my chair in the study hall and read every paper in the country to which there was, I could read sporting news cover to cover or front to back because we don't charge. There's lots of papers that you can get to that without a subscription. Or you could subscribe, say, to the Indianapolis Star for not a whole lot of money, and you could, if you're sitting in your high school in Indiana, and you could read that on your phone. So it's not a blow if we continue to produce great reporting and great storytelling and in important perspective on current events. It's not a blow to journalism if you're not getting it on paper anymore. It's just different technology. I don't buy that it's that important that it be printed. I prefer still to read books. When I read books, I prefer to have them in my hands because it's more comfortable for me to read a book that way. But I don't have any trouble consuming news content on my phone or on my iPad or whatever. To me, it's the same. What's important is that the content is still there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's actually where I get 99% of everything I read. So it's just changed as far as how you get it. And I don't have the paper delivered because for obvious reasons, but if I go out and there are places that have it, like I said, I'd love to sit down and grab that, but I'm reading every day, all day. And it's actually, it's more accessible now. The only thing is you have to be diligent. And I think that depending on how, I don't want to use the word educated, but on the information that you're getting and who you're getting it from, I think that is where it has changed, because there's a blurring of the lines a lot of times that that information is not from a valid source or this and that and the other thing.
Well, yeah, and that's why the Star Ledger, and which is now NJ.com, that's why its brand is important, because that it's a legitimate news source. It's important to have a sporting news. It's important to have SI.com. It's important to have ESPN.com, etc., FoxSports.com. These are all people that hire proven communicators And you can agree or disagree with various people and on what they say. When it's clearly an opinion column, I mean, there are people who disagree with what I write. That's fine. I mean, you don't have to agree with the fact I'm right every time. You're welcome to be wrong and disagree with me. But it's important that we have people who are professionals in this. I have no doubt about that part of it is essential. And so it's important that we have financially successful media organizations in every city and every town, and the national ones as well, because it helps all of us. You mentioned Zach Osterman before. If you want to know what's going on with Indiana sports, I mean, that's, he does a great job. And so I think that having people like Zach and Greg Doyle writing columns, I think those things are important. Or you look at The Athletic and you see the various people that work there, Zach Kiefer, people like that. It's, those people are on the beat. They know the ins and outs of what's going on. And of course, it's true of your site as well. I'm a big believer in the individual school sites. I think that they serve a very important function. And I salute you and all the others who are in that business, because I think you're great for college sports and great for the athletes who participate.
It's definitely hard work, because you're doing a couple of things. You're trying to provide, thank you, by the way, provide that information. At the same time, there's competition. You're competing, and people probably don't understand that, but so you're doing two things and maybe more than that. But yeah, it's a lot of, it's become a busy place. Let's just say that, especially at a place like Indiana that has quote unquote media school. And so now, instead of just dealing with the journalists who do it for a living, you've got just as many students that you're dealing with at pressers and all of that. So training those guys for tomorrow. I wanted to talk some about college basketball. I've kind of run us out of time a little bit, but the season it tipped off last night with games, not many games that are going to be big, I think, but I did see that Gonzaga beat the crap out of who did they play?
Baylor. They
Baylor. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was like, whoop. And Gonzaga looks as good as they've looked. I mean, they've got 3-point shooting. They've got a big guy who runs the floor. So when you look that good coming out of the gate, that would scare you.
Yeah, I thought they were terrific. They absolutely manhandled a very talented team in Baylor. And Ohio State opened the season with a really nice win. Of all the teams in the Big Ten last night, I think most of them played successfully, but not all of them played significant opposition. But Ohio State played Texas on a neutral floor and controlled the game the entire way. I thought they played exceedingly well, the Ohio State Buckeyes. And so good start for the Big Ten. Remember, whether you like Ohio State or Michigan or not, it's better for you as a Hoosiers fan or a Purdue fan. It's better for you if those teams succeed, because and then every win over them that you might accumulate during the regular season of the conference means that much more.
Absolutely. What is up next for you, sir?
Yeah, yesterday we dropped our preseason top 25, and your Indiana Hoosiers were featured in that.
They're not mine. I cover them, but they're not mine.
Well, I meant I was speaking to your audience, Jim.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, I was speaking to your audience. But the Indiana Hoosiers were included in that, and then next week, Monday.
Where were they ranked, by the way?
That's a good question, and that's one I'd have to look up. I'm going to say around. I'm going to say
15. Were they in the top 15? I'm going to guess.
Gosh, I was not ready for that question.
Well, and I'm sorry. I wish I should have had it pulled up. I meant to, but that's where they've been pretty much everywhere, is in the top 15.
They were 18. They were 18 is what they were.
And
18.
So they've got And Purdue had a game last night with Texas A&M Corpus Christi, in which they had a 16-point halftime lead, melted down to 3, but they pulled back away from that. As you're going to see in the early season, that's just how those games are going to go. But it's here, man. It's tipped off, and it's really busy now.
It is. So next Monday, we will present our preseason All-America team. That's my next project. So that'll come up next. And I did a nice little piece on Cooper Flagg from Duke. I think you saw last night, if you watched any of their game, he's a really gifted player and an exciting prospect for American basketball.
Absolutely. Mike DeCourcy, Sporting News. Make sure you follow him and keep it up with that content. Thank you, sir. We greatly appreciate you as always.
Thank you, Jim.
You betcha. We've got lots more coming up. Chronic Hoosier joins us next. Rick Bozich later in the next segment as well, and the next hour as well. Back with more right after these messages.
This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington. We'll return.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So, no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So, no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the hard truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator.
Welcome back in the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Jim Coyle with you as always, joined now by Chronic Hoosier. Chronic, how's it going, man?
Could not be better, Jim. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. It is always a pleasure. And now I was up in East Lansing last Saturday and watched Indiana get down by 10 points. And I'll be honest with you, in the beginning, it was watching that offense of Michigan State's, I'm like, oh man, they're moving the ball. The Aiden Childs was looking good, and Indiana gives up not only a score in the first quarter, they give up 2 scores, and they don't score in the first quarter. They're down 10-0. Oh my! And then the seas parted, and Michigan State was just swept out to sea. It was just an absolute beat down. It was like Indiana had been yawning for the first quarter, because what happened after that first quarter was an absolute defensive beat down by the Hoosiers. I'm serious, from a statistical standpoint, what they did to Michigan State from that point forward, beginning in the second quarter. Indiana marches in and they score, but defensively, what Indiana did, Chronic, was eye-opening. I mean, Michigan State does not have to be a number 1 team in the country. They're still a very, very solid college football team, Big Ten team, and Indiana shut them down like a Pop Warner team, man.
Yeah, that was an absolute curb stomping, if we're being honest. And like you said, the first quarter was a little disconcerting. Indiana looked a little bit out of sorts, both on offense and on defense. But as we've seen every game all season long, Cignetti's Hoosiers stay focused and they stay poised. And I don't know that you can overstate how valuable it is to have that collective calm and confidence to have a short-term memory about what just happened and go out there and execute the next series, the next play of the series, and just continuing with that mindset all the way up to the final whistle. This is a team that has shown that they can score emphatically in the first quarter just as easily as they can in the fourth. And, as he says, they are relentless in their attack. And on both ends of the ball, this was probably one of the most vivid examples of that mindset, because it was almost grotesque how thoroughly they just dominated Michigan State from basically the second quarter all the way to the final whistle. And, to do that on the road, I don't care if you're playing the worst team in the Big Ten. I don't care if you're playing, I don't care. I just don't care about the strength of schedule concerns anymore at this point, because no matter who's been faced up in front of them, all they have done is gone out and dominate and win by double-digit points. And let's be honest, the majority of the games this season, not unlike Michigan State, have been bloodbaths. Just a no contest. So I don't know what else there is to say. I'm curious to see what the CFP rankings, where they slot the Hoosiers tonight when those first come out. But as Sig said yesterday during his media availability, they don't care. They just don't care. They're going to keep beating whoever's in front of them wherever they have to play. And as luck would have it, they get the Wolverines at home in front of a sold-out crowd on CBS this Saturday. And you feel like every week we say this is the biggest game of the season for Indiana. As the stakes continue to rise, so do the consequences. But this is a team that doesn't seem to hear that noise. I know the closer it gets, the more we got to talk about it, and the more excitement justifiably is going to build around the program. But this mindset that they can totally tune that out and just shut it off and focus on the next play, the next game. It's just been nothing short of remarkable. And I don't care if this is happening at Alabama, the fact that it's happening here at Indiana, no matter where, this is just a remarkable turnaround by any measure. But that's what happens when you don't own the past. Cignetti, the bulk of the players, the staff, they don't own Indiana's past failures, and they haven't accepted it, and they haven't carried those burdens with them. And it's been one of the craziest, most enjoyable things I've seen in my life.
Well, absolutely, because and you just hit the nail on the head. Kurt Signetti came here a winner. Well, he's not going to stop being a winner because Indiana has been a loser. He's in his mind, hey, I'm a winner. We're a winner. And that's what they brought. And that's exactly what has happened. That is why and how the culture at Indiana football changed, because there are guys that were on the team last year still here, but bringing in 13 JMU guys was huge because they are also anchors of that culture, and that culture changed. And then when your teammates are like that, you become like that. It spreads, and it spreads fast, and success breeds success, and they're getting it done in simple terms. I mean, I can make it simplistic. The coaching is unbelievable, but these players are not making mistakes. They're doing what they've been coached to do. They're doing their jobs. They're all playing with a chip on their shoulder 9 games in. That has not changed one iota. That is why, I don't mean to jump ahead, but that's why when Indiana goes, it's one of the reasons why when Indiana goes to Ohio State, that 100,000 plus crowd, that's not going to affect Indiana that much, to in my opinion. And I think Indiana wins there because I think they're a more complete team. We'll go there in a week or so. But right now they have a Michigan team coming in. Indiana can complete a duo of beating both teams that played in the national championship game last year.
Yeah, and a chance to sweep the mitten.
Oh, yeah. So, man, sweep the mitten, people. He's talking about the great state of Michigan. That would be, that's another, there are just so many things that keep getting added on to this chronic. They now set a program record for starts in a season at 9-0, eclipsing the 97 team or 67 team, eclipsing the 1945 team, that great team, undefeated with Ted Klaszewski and oh my God, George Taliaferro. This is crazy because this is in an age where you just don't do that in college football that fast. But yet it's happened, and it did not happen because of NIL.
There's certainly there's a lot of components to it. I think leadership is first and foremost. I think the administration just made, unquestionably now the best possible hire, given the opportunity, given the options available to them. But part of that, I think, is you are what you practice. Your habits become your tendencies, become who you are. And to come in and eliminate so many bad habits, to really focus on the minutia of the execution. And you see it across the field in all facets of the game: offense, defense, special teams. Doesn't matter who's lined up, you're going to have 11 guys pulling in the same direction. And I don't think you can overstate how powerful that is, particularly when you change the mindset, because just like success breeds success, confidence is contagious. And, Sig acknowledged when he came in, he had to talk a big game because he recognized what he was walking into and just how broken the mindset around the program was, which makes, those final scenes from Michigan State this weekend that much more poignant when you see guys like Mike Kadick taking the spitter back home with them on the plane, or hoisting it up in front of the visiting fans, and coach comes over and joins them. Those guys that stayed committed in spite of the change, in spite of all the turmoil that surrounded the program, just all the uncertainty, but they committed to a shared goal. And I love team sports for that very reason. The synergy that's available when 5 fingers form a fist. You're seeing it play out, and it sounds corny as all get out. I know a lot of coaches like to get made fun of for the quote unquote coach speak, if you will, but those exist because they're true. And Signetti is just a football guy through and through, and his philosophies, the way that they have been embedded in this program's identity in such a short time, just true testament to everybody involved in this season and making it happen. And, the crazy thing is we still don't even fully comprehend where this team's ceiling is. Because as everybody wants to knock down the success based off the strength of schedule, past performance, the fact that it's just the Indiana brand. The fact of the matter is they're 3/4 of the way through the regular season. They're still undefeated. They're going to be favored against Michigan. They're going to be favored against Purdue. And quite honestly, when they go to the Horseshoe, I don't know that there's a single guy on that sideline that is going to sweat that one bit, other than the fact that they're going to have that many more people there to witness them give their best. And I think that's what they're going to do. And I don't expect them in any way, shape, or form to be affected by the moment or the environment. And I know we've seen that in years past with Indiana teams. It can be a little daunting. But let's be honest, there ain't a bit of doubt on this sideline, and I don't expect it to emerge here at this point in the season. And not unlike an Indiana soccer team, it appears as though they're getting better as the season goes on, and that's just a dangerous, potent combination.
Yeah, because what I've talked about this team all year and what makes them so dangerous that people outside may not understand is this is one of the most complete teams in the country. And I'm talking top 5. I truly believe that on both sides of the ball. There are very, very few teams that can match what Indiana does from a statistical standpoint. I know looking yesterday, as far as scoring offense and scoring defense, you've got Indiana at number 2 in scoring offense and number 7 in scoring defense. The only other program that's in the top 10 on both sides, that would be Ole Miss. And Ole Miss they lost at home to Kentucky. They've been up and down. So they're kind of an enigma of sorts, while Indiana it's probably has not, well, they're not probably, they haven't played as tough a schedule, say Ole Miss, but I don't care that Indiana hasn't played, ranked teams. They play teams that were ranked and this and that. It's how they are defeating teams, and they're just demolishing them. They are when you score 47 unanswered points on the road, that's a big deal.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's unfortunate that the offense is so incredibly balanced because, quite honestly, Curtis Rourke deserves to be in the Heisman conversation right now, particularly after coming back from a surgery on his throwing hand. All the kid does is win. And, testament to the line, testament to the running backs. They've been able to really balance out the offense. But he has just done nothing but lead scoring drives and win games. And that's all they've done. Doesn't matter where, doesn't matter who. And at the end of the day, it's one of the more impressive individual feats I've seen. And you saw the difference between QB1 and QB2. And that's no knock against Taven. I thought Taven did a great job. But just how incredibly effective work has been under center for Indiana. Just a banner year all the way around, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast, and it continues. If Indiana gets past Michigan, gets to 10-0, bye week, we'll head into the Ohio State game, and you want to talk about that will be the biggest game in the country.
Yeah, no doubt. And this is everything on the line at this point for Indiana. They put themselves in position to be in the Big Ten title game, the college football playoff. They even get a bye in the college football playoff. It's all on the table right now. And every week, you put all that on the line. You're going all in from now on out. Every single time they line up, it's all there. But at the end of the day, Indiana is 3/4 of the way through the season. They control their destiny still. And that's a pretty remarkable thing to say.
Looking forward to it. Chronic, appreciate you as always, brother.
Catch you next time, Jim. Have a good week.
Absolutely. Plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios as the Captain Rick Bozich joins us from WDRB.com. We've got plenty more to talk about from the college football polls coming out tonight. There's all kind of polls going on today. Who's at the election polls, this poll, that poll, even maybe the North Pole. We'll be back with plenty more with Rick Bozich right after these messages.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. We'll return to the Hard Truth Studios for more with Jim Coyle right after these messages.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum, Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So, no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. We'll return to the Hard Truth Studios for more with Jim Coyle right after these messages.
We're back now. What are you talking about? The great Rick Bozich joining us now here from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday. Normally joins us on Wednesday, but he's got an assignment to take care of tomorrow. Rick, welcome aboard. And I saw you had a piece out on the poll coming out, the CFP poll coming out today. And the big question, of course, for Indiana fans, where will they be ranked? They were surprisingly in the top 10 of the AP poll this week, even though you've got some dude out in San Diego that thinks that they're not as good as Boise State and a few other teams, which was kind of funny. But it's going to be I'm curious. I think that they land about in the spot that they are in the current AP poll, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think they'll be 7 or 8. I mean, I've seen a few people. I mean, Pat Forty has them number 5 in his rankings at Sports Illustrated, and I saw something. A guy, but David, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's Ubben, Ubben, had something today saying he could see him as high as 5th, which is where Pat has him. But I think 7 or 8 would be a reasonable place to be, and not out of the poll, which is what a few of these dudes are saying.
Yeah, and that's a perfect spot because it really won't matter that much. Indiana just has to beat Michigan, which they are favored to do currently. It's gone up to 13.5 point. Let me repeat that, people. Indiana is a 13.5-point favorite to beat the defending, reigning national champion, Michigan Wolverines. A team they've beaten once or twice in 30 years?
I remember the one in the COVID year. When was the other one? Since like 87.
87. I was there in a little drizzling rain. It was a hell of a day. Now that was fun because it was just old school stadium with the old school scoreboard in the background still. I think it wasn't an official. I can't remember the field storming situation.
I think they did. There's actually a guy from Louisville. He was a walk-on from St. X by the name of Bill Reisert.
I didn't know he went to St. X.
Yeah, he blocked the punt in that game. He blocked the punt that led to Indiana's first touchdown. I just talked to him the other day.
I did not know he was from Louisville.
Yeah. He's big buddies with Joe Huff, the former star linebacker. And at some point, I'm going to do a story on what some of the old players think about what's going on this year. And
there's another guy down there that this was weird. There was a BBC restaurant. It's called a Bluegrass Brewing Company down there. Right. And this one was right off of Fourth Street, not on 4th Street, but it's, I'm trying to remember exactly where it was, but the guy that wrote a great book called Cornbread Mafia was writing this book, and that's his cousin. It's a guy named Gordon Bramall. He played for IU. He's from Marion County, Kentucky.
I didn't know that.
So, yeah, and Marion County is where this book, The Cornbread Mafia, was based, true, about the nation's largest marijuana syndicate. A great read. But I'm sitting there reading the book, and then I see Gordon Brown. I'm like, I know him. So it was, and they turned out to be related to the author. But yeah, Gordon's at the matter of fact, I'll try to see if I've got his info. I'll look him up. But yeah, he's still down in that area. But yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking, I looked at the computer polls that were used in the BCS formula, which most people think they're among the best computer polls that are out there. And all of them had Indiana in the top 12 teams. I think they were as high as 5-1. There's a thing it's called Massey, Massey, Massey ratings. If you go on his page and you can find a little tab, and he's got composite rankings. He's got 62 different computer rankings from this season. And I'm pretty sure as of yesterday, the average of IU 62 computer rankings was number 5 in the country. So, I mean, the computer formulas, no matter how all these people do them differently, seem to think that, they deserve to be in the top 12, even though there's one guy at CBS Sports who doesn't and says
Jerry Palm?
Yeah.
Jerry Palm?
It says that even if they beat Michigan, that won't change anything because Michigan's not any good. It's like, okay.
Some people are just truly brand biased. They are. It has to be it has to be a big name team for whatever reason. Indiana's schedule, while has not been what it was for a decade, having to play the toughest schedule year in, year out, but it's not. They're not skidding by these games by a touchdown. They are just obliterating teams. I mentioned a minute ago, Indiana is one of 2 teams in the top 10 in the country in both scoring offense and scoring defense. The other is Ole Miss, and they're kind of an enigma. They have, had some really ups and downs. They lose at home to Kentucky, but Indiana is just a dominant team, and I don't think people realize how good they are on both sides of the ball. Last week, defensively, what they did against Michigan State was pretty eye-opening, and because they did it in 3 quarters. They gave up yardage throughout the first quarter, 100 and something yards, but then someone flipped the switch, and buddy, they went backwards. There were 15 tackles for loss, 7 sacks that accounted for over 160 negative yards. That's big time football.
Well, I mean, all we can go on is what we see, and what we see is a team that runs at a high level of efficiency and scores in a variety of different ways. Isn't really dependent upon one player. If there would be one player, it'd be Curtis Wark, but even when he was out, they won without him. And they win with offense, they win with defense, they win with special teams. As you mentioned, every victory's been by 2 touchdowns or more. They've only trailed for 1 quarter this year. And then if you know, it's dangerous to get into the comparison score thing, but one week they play Nebraska and beat them 56-7. The very next week, Ohio State beats them at home by 4 points. One week, I mean, they beat UCLA at UCLA by almost 30 points. UCLA travels to Penn State and plays. It's a much closer game. I don't know if it was 14 points or 17 points or whatever. They go in against Michigan State and score 47 points and only give up 10. Iowa, which most people think has a phenomenal defense, plays Michigan State in the same facility and gives up 32 points. So, I mean, you really have to be reaching to say that they're not one of the top 12 teams in the country. And there we go. Brian says UCLA gave LSU a battle on the road. You really have to be twisting your arm behind your back to reach to find a way to say they're not a top 12 team in the country. And that's unreasonable. That's unreasonable, man.
That is I don't think that should even be a consideration. But I started letting my mind wander. I'm like, okay, I believe that they're going to beat Michigan without question, but I also think that they're going to shock the college football world yet again and go to Columbus and beat Ohio State, because I think they are a more complete football team that has more weapons on both sides of the ball. I don't think that they're dominant. I'm not saying they're going to dominate, I think they're going to win. And that, if they do, they need that win to shut up the people who do think that they played it. Well, you know what? What happens when you beat one of the teams that you think are the absolute best in the country? There's nothing anyone can say at that point. And if that were to happen, Kurt Cignetti is going to look like Nostradamus. I've talked about, last year when he was hired, he was on Big BTN at the broadcast for the Big Ten championship. And he made this, he's like Lee Corso. I just thought I'd come up here because we're going to be playing in this game next year. It's like
we all left.
Of course. Absolutely. And I don't even know how you think of that to say that, but he meant it. But if that comes to fruition, Katie bar the door. I'm not saying that they're going to beat Oregon, but if they make it to that point, they're probably going to host a college football playoff game. I think at that point.
Yeah, I think that'd be safe to say at that point. If they can, that means that they beat Michigan, Ohio State, and Purdue, and would lose in the Big Ten title game, they would host the first round game for sure. At that point, you really couldn't knock them. But yeah, when he said that, I remember thinking, I just laughed. Just like, dude, how about having a winning season first? Or
who didn't laugh? But what I mean, that is the craziest thing that someone could have said. I got to be honest with you. This is the losingest program in the history of Division I football. But if that comes true, I don't know, where does he go from there? How do you follow that up? I mean, he's got to follow this up next season now.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's.
I mean, I know that's you worry about tomorrow's problems tomorrow.
It's the whole thing of him saying that and him saying, never had a losing season. I don't intend to start now. And Purdue and Michigan and Ohio State suck. And I win. Google me. I mean, he's pretty consistent in his messaging of being self-confident. And, we've talked about this before. He's sort of at a faster speed. He's Indiana Schnellenberger, where he's come in and changed the way people think about the program. It's like, quit thinking of yourself as a loser. Quit thinking of yourself of what you can't do. And until you do that, you're not going to change. So he's consistent in his messaging, and he's gotten people to buy in. And, I'm sure it's going to be, the atmosphere for the Michigan game is going to be better than the atmosphere for the Washington game.
I was there the day that Howard Schnellenberger uttered the phrase that everyone else laughed at.
Right.
The University of Louisville is on a collision course with a national championship. The only variable is time.
That's right.
Great quote. But again, Louisville sucked. And they played at Old Cardinal Stadium, just a 200-year-old stadium. And all of a sudden, they are actually an offsides penalty away in 2008, I believe, from playing for the national championship when they were at Rutgers. And
it was 2005 or 6, when Petrino was there.
They jumped off sides. Rutgers missed the field goal. Louisville jumped off sides. They get the penalty, make the field goal, changes everything.
And look at all, they played in the Orange Bowl. They played in the Sugar Bowl. They've played in, a couple of other.
They beat Alabama in the Fiesta Bowl. They beat Florida in the Sugar Bowl that year of
beat Wake Forest in the Orange Bowl. Had a Heisman Trophy winner. On and on and on. You need a coach who can shock the system to make people stop thinking negative thoughts or about the old way of doing things and start thinking about a different way of doing things. And he's done that. But he's done it. I mean, Schnellenberger had 2 or 3, maybe 4 losing seasons before he even got going. And this is, I'm sure other people have done some research. I don't remember anybody ever doing this ever.
No, there's no way it's possible. Partly because the transfer portal has changed everything. So it's hard to compare against everything else, but no, nothing like this has ever happened. You're talking about a team that is a perennial loser that is more than likely going to be in the college football playoffs. Now, that also comes into play because this is the first year of the 12-team playoff.
Right.
Although they could still make it if it was 4 teams, depending on how their season goes. But it's the fans of Indiana they've jumped on board. Selling out Memorial Stadium the last 4 games, huge. It hasn't happened, and they are on board for this. Basketball, smasketball. I'm like, stick to football, people. This is where it is right now. And although basketball just tipped off last night, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But this is how much more fun, if you're a fan, I don't know how much more fun you'd ever want to have than having a winning football program that has sucked for not just your life, your dad's life, your grandpa's life. They just have. And it's great to see new blood. I think it's great for the sport, to be honest with you.
It is. Yeah, I mean, it'll never be another experience like this because it's totally organic, totally nobody predicted it. It's been, there's no question about it. It's not like there have been any fluke wins or any games they've won because of a penalty call or, a trick play or something. They've just gone out and kicked butt 9 straight games. And it's this many people that believed in the very beginning, and then a few more really then after maybe Western Illinois just a little bit. And then when they go out and beat UCLA, there's more. And then you go up to, the next one. And then now it's like here, and it's up here, and you got McAfee jumping on, and Joe Buck and Troy Aikman jumping on, and Mike Woodson jumping on, and everybody talking about it. And it's like a wave that Indiana's riding for as far as they can ride it.
Well, Curt Cignetti talked about it. It's a tidal wave, and it is, and you just have to manage it. And that's something, and that's a great point. And Curt Cignetti is the head of that, but Indiana has done a tremendous job of handling success because that has taken many teams down.
Mm-hmm. I've been impressed by him. I mean, he's done a ton of national interviews, but he hasn't lost his focus. I mean, every week he does one or two, whether it's Rich Eisen or Nicole Auerbach or McAfee or whatever. He's done a lot of national interviews, but it hasn't distracted him at all. He seems like he can handle it pretty well, and it's amazing. It's an amazing story, and the best part of it, we still have a few more chapters to see how it unfolds.
I think he's very Knight-esque. And Bob Knight, when the NCAA tournament would come around, if you remember all the goofy stuff he did that was at the tournament, the game face, all that came at the tournament. The Calvert Cheney whipping thing came with all that stuff. Well, Todd Leary would tell me, he goes, all that stuff was on purpose. He did all that on purpose to draw the attention away from the team, get it on him. Curt Cignetti has done that pretty much all season, and very effectively, but his team has done a great job of towing the line. They all have the same concept, the same belief, the same one game at a time attitude.
It seemed to. I mean, the consistency of effort has definitely been there. We've seen, so many teams in the past that would have one or two great games and then have a letdown or whatever. This team, we haven't seen that happen yet. I'm sure at some point it will, because no team goes forever without having a letdown, but they've reached the point now of really, deciding how far they're going to set the standard, and to beat Michigan, as we know, all the different games against Michigan. I can think of that overtime game when they could have won, they didn't win. The Anthony Carter game on the last play when they lost. There was a penalty game that I remember when Indiana got a couple of bad calls on penalties and they didn't win. There have been a bunch of one-sided games that were over in the first quarter. And as you mentioned, is Indiana, there's no way to research it, but I would doubt they've ever been favored by 13.5 points against Michigan ever.
I would pretty sure make a bet on that. You are correct.
Probably if you go through history, you probably couldn't add up any games they have been favored. The margin adding up together in the games that have been favored hasn't been 13.5 points.
Probably you could go through history and maybe never find a game that they were favored against Michigan.
I don't know. They weren't favored in the COVID year. Michigan wasn't very good that year. They might have been favored that year.
Whew, yeah, we'd have to go back. That may be the only one, or maybe back in 67 and 45. Indiana had really good. They did have legitimately good teams then that got up as high as fourth in the AP
45. I don't know if there were point spreads in 45, but yeah, it's. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Another part will be interesting to me is usually when they play Michigan, there's 5,000 Michigan fans there. I would suspect the number will be quite a bit lower this Saturday.
Absolutely. And looking forward to this week's game. It's a 3:30 game on CBS, so people are going to get more time to tailgate and be
Here's
ready.
Another thing, Jim. Who would have ever thought that Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson on the first Saturday in November would be doing a game from IU? The voice of the SEC. The voice of the SEC from all those years, from all those great LSU, Alabama, or Alabama, Auburn games, or Georgia games. They're doing the Indiana Michigan game. And Danielson.
I was wondering.
Danielson, for the record, is a Purdue guy. So.
I did not know that. I love Brad Nessler. He does such a phenomenal job. And he's also he seems like an SEC guy, but if he's a Purdue guy, I guess not. But well, he better. He has no ship to ride on there this year. That's like getting a first class ticket on the Titanic. No, thank you. I'm good. We've got Rick Bozich with us from WDRB.com. We've got lots more coming up. The basketball season has begun. Indiana tips it off for themselves tomorrow night at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. We'll be back to talk about that and much more when we return.
This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East.
I'm gonna grab
We'll
my
return
coffee.
to the Hard Truth Studios for more with Jim Coyle right after these messages.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue.
and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. The Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this beautiful, beautiful Tuesday. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com with us. And Rick, last night the basketball season tipped off and some games got underway. I don't know if there was much of consequence. I talked earlier with Mike DeCourcy. I caught a good bit of the Gonzaga-Baylor game. Man, Gonzaga looking sharp to start the season, and that's a potential opponent for Indiana down in the Bahamas. But that's only if they get past Louisville, which I'm thinking, man, Louisville is going to be dangerous. They're going to score a lot of points.
Yeah, they're good. I've seen them both exhibition games, and I saw them blow out Morehead State last night. They are very talented on offense. They do like to shoot threes. They're not afraid to miss threes. They had one stretch. They missed 5 in a row and came back and hit the next one. But what really impressed me was their defense. They're very good at containing dribblers, keeping guys out of the lane. They were very impressive in that game last night. I don't know how good Morehead is. They have been good in the past. They have a new coach and they have 9 new players. But they've won all their exhibition games and they won their game last night by very comfortable margins. And I mean, you're familiar with Chucky Hepburn. He's the point guard. He's a good player. They got a backup point guard by the name of Keon Johnson from the University of Washington, who's good. Their best overall player is probably a guy by the name of Kason Pryor, who actually comes off the bench. He was a star at South Florida last year. He's about a 6'7", 6'8", maybe 6'9" guy who can play inside or out, handle the ball, shoot threes. They'll push the tempo on you. It'll be that'll be a hard game.
Yeah, Gonzaga ended up winning 101-63. Holy crap.
I turned it off. Yeah.
Number 8, Baylor.
It won't be number 8 for long.
No, they will not.
You'll have a good if you want to watch Louisville, you have a good chance to watch them. They play Tennessee actually Saturday at noon, so you could watch it before.
Well, there's a great comparison for the Indiana game as well.
It's here. They'll have a huge crowd, and you'll get a read for how good Louisville really is. And I think they're good.
I do too. I swear. And you want to talk about the job that Cignetti has done. It's apples and oranges when we're talking basketball and football. I
Right.
get that. But Pat Kelsey brought in 13 new players. He is an entire new roster. And you look at how much they suffered last year with the just complete inconsistent play. The team, Kenny Payne lost the team. It was a weird situation. And now it's just like all that has been wiped away and everything is good again.
Yeah, and it's some of the same thing where he brought 3 players with him from the College of Charleston, and he's actually got a James Madison player who's really good. And he's got a couple guys from BYU and one from Colorado and one from Wisconsin. And, he's done a good job.
How upset are James Madison fans? Their football team gone. Basketball guys gone because they were ranked in both, I think, at one time.
Yeah, didn't they beat Michigan State last year in basketball? I'm pretty sure they did.
I think so.
Start the season. So, yeah, it's tough to have a good team at that level and not being able to keep it together. But and Kentucky blew out Wright State at home, and it sounded like Purdue had a little bit of took them some time to put Texas A&M Corpus Christi away late in the game.
Well, they had a 16-point halftime lead that melted to 3 points, but they end up pulling back away and winning by 17, 90 to 73 over Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Didn't Texas A&M get beat last night?
Yes, they did by Central Florida on the road. They played.
Well, we had our first court storming in the first day of college basketball. They stormed the court.
Oh,
yes, they stormed the court after that.
Wow. And then trying to think of there was another, somebody went to Memphis and got beat. I forgot who it was. But, they went on the road early and got beat. But, yeah, it's.
I was trying to pull
it was Missouri, I think. Missouri went to Memphis and got beat.
I'm not sold on Purdue being as good as everyone thinks that they are. I know that they have a greatly experienced backcourt. These guys have been together for 3 years. So yes, that's big. Your point guard. But at the end of the day, talent is talent. And I'm just not sure that as a complete team, they have what it's going to take to a lot of people have picked them to win Big Ten. I'm like, there's no way in hell I can see Purdue winning the Big Ten. If they do, then there's other heads that need to roll.
Yeah, I think the Big Ten's going to be really, really wide open. The most eye-popping thing I saw from the Big Ten last night was Derek Queen at Maryland having either 20 points and 22 rebounds or 22 points and 20 rebounds. Did you see that?
No, I did not, but IU fans are certainly going to lament not getting him. And he's just another in a long line. You look at Duke, what they're doing, Cooper Flagg, of course, a freshman, but Indiana is not landing the big guys. Although I will say Bryson Tucker, man, I know this was against Marion, but he looked really good.
He looked like he knew how to play basketball, and he had a lot of confidence in his ability to score the ball. He didn't play the way a lot of freshmen play, where they're like, "Should I do this or should I not do this?" I was like, "No, I'm going to do it because I can do it." So I agree. I saw part of that game, and Tucker was impressive. He looked like he thought he belonged. A lot of freshmen play sometimes like they're not sure they belong. He looked like he thought he belonged.
And we got to see the athletic ability of Ja'Kai Newton. That dude is freaking athletic.
Yeah, he is. If he can stay healthy, he'll help. He'll help definitely defensively and to extend the rotation at the guard play. Now, have they said is Carlisle going to be able to play tomorrow in the opener?
I have not seen that yet.
I don't know. We talked yesterday, and I wasn't able to get on the Zoom, but
I wasn't either. It happened too quick after the show. But my question is, Indiana has so far, we heard a lot of talk about up tempo. I haven't seen up tempo yet. and maybe I've missed it, but it's not what I'm thinking. What I think of up tempo is not what I'm seeing. You had Umar Ballo and Malik Renew playing over 30 minutes. Last time I'm like, okay, so what's the difference in the offense? Do you see a difference in the offense?
I haven't watched enough to say that I've seen a difference in the offense, but not a ton. I mean, I hate to dwell on the same thing. I still have seen a team that isn't making 3-point shots, and that in part is because Luke Goody hasn't been hitting them, and I would expect at some point he would start hitting them, but they still don't look like a team that has a dependable 3-point shooter. And that's
exactly.
not the focus. I've seen Louisville and I've seen Indiana. I've seen what an offense that really believes in the 3-point shot looks like, and that's what Louisville's playing. And Indiana, I haven't seen that. So I'm sure when they play, Indiana will try and exploit their advantage with Ballo and Renew and Mbako inside, and Louisville's going to spread them out. They play 4 guys on the perimeter, and they're going to move the ball, and they're going to get open threes. And that has been a weakness of IU the last few years in terms of guarding and shutting down the 3. And if they don't have a solid game plan that night, it's going to be an issue.
That's when I think of Louisville, that's why I think of them as a dangerous team for, say, Indiana, who I don't see them very strong defensively on the 3. They're equal to how they are offensively on the 3. It is still lacking, I think. And when you're running Umar Ballo and Malik Renew out there at the same time, I don't know how strong you can be against a 3-point shooting team.
I agree. It's tough. Renew's going to have to be the guy who goes out there, and he is trimmer and in better shape. He looks more mobile, and so does Mbako. But yeah, they're going to have to get after it and be able to get out and cover on the perimeter and run guys off the line. The other score that we mentioned that's worth noting was that Louisville's, Indiana's prime non-conference home game, South Carolina got beat last night at home.
Well, there you go.
I don't even remember who it wasn't like some epic team either.
Oh, I just had the scores pulled up. Let me get back.
North Florida.
Oh my, I've never even heard of them. There's always a ton of teams that you've never heard of, but that's one that I
North Florida. They're in Bellarmine's league.
Oh, so they're Division I at least.
Yeah.
Well, they've got that going for them, but I bet you they're not too high in that league. That's not good news for the Gamecocks, I guess that's good for Indiana, but not really. They need solid wins, and the only true test they're going to have prior to the Big Ten is in the Bahamas, and they are going to be tested there. Gonzaga is in this tournament. Louisville is down there. I can't even remember who else is there.
Is Arizona there?
I'll have to pull that up, but Indiana is going to get tested seriously and early in this event down in the Bahamas, a battle for Atlantis, and they could come back 0-3 if they're not careful in that. I'm not saying they are or will.
The second game, I think they play like the winner of maybe Arizona and West Virginia.
I think if they were to beat Louisville, that Gonzaga would probably be next up.
So it's Gonzaga or I think Gonzaga plays West Virginia. Hold on, I got it right here.
But yeah, it's these are, everyone talks about Indiana not being tested. Well, this is going to be a test. It's NCAA tournament-esque, although and then some, because you're going to have at least 3 games to play down there and against more than battle-worthy talent. Like I said, you've seen Louisville. What do you think? Louisville and Indiana, they're going to play each other again for the second year in a row, completely different teams. But what are your thoughts on that matchup?
Well, like I just said, it'll be a very competitive, hard-fought, close game, I think. I mean, I could see Indiana having problems with Louisville because of Louisville's ability to spread the floor, shoot threes, push the pace, and they got a lot of depth. He's very comfortable playing 9 guys. Played like more than 10 minutes in the first half last night. So he's very guys play hard, and as soon as they need a blow, he changes them out, and that'll be a hard game. Yeah, you're right. It's Louisville, Indiana.
Arizona is there.
West Virginia, Gonzaga. So they'll either play West Virginia or Gonzaga the second game. In the bottom half of the brackets, Oklahoma, Providence, Davidson, and Arizona. So you got to come back from Atlantis with at least 2 wins.
And Arizona is in this, so that would be
other half of the bracket.
A potential opportunity for Umar Ballo to play against his old team. We'll see if that happens or not. But yeah, Gonzaga looking, they're definitely the class of the teams down here. But Louisville has a chance to make a name for itself. But Indiana, like you said, they have got to come away 2-1 out of that, or it's there's going to be questions coming out of the season. Although there are a lot of people say, "Oh, it's early." Well, it's early for everybody. So,
well, I think we learned last year that Indiana caused problems with itself by the way it played in the non-conference schedule. They didn't beat the good teams that they had to play, and they got blown out in a couple of them. Correct? Auburn and UConn, was it?
Yeah.
Secondly, the teams they're supposed to beat. They didn't beat them decisively, starting with the very first 2 games, right? I mean, they started off, I don't remember who it was. It was Florida Gulf Coast, maybe, and didn't beat them by 6. And they played Army, and they were screwing around in that game and behind late in the game and had to come back and win by 8. And one thing we've learned in the net ratings is margin of victory in those games matters. The Big 12 teams figured it out, especially Iowa State, and they play those teams that are ranked, in the 250 or worse, and beat them by 30 or 40 points, and you go up in the rankings. And the third game Indiana played was Wright State, and they won by 9. So the first 3 games they played, they didn't beat anybody by double figures. So that you can't have that.
Where are you this weekend?
As I meant, I got a family trip I'm going on, so I'll be watching on TV. But I'll be back next week.
Looking forward to it. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Make sure you give him a follow, keeping up with all the great content. Thanks, Rick. We appreciate you as always, man.
All right, thanks, Jim.
And that's going to wrap it up for us here at the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios. Thanks to Mike DeCourcy, Chronic Hoosier, and Rick Bozich. Most importantly, to each and every one of you. We're back tomorrow to do it again. Special guest, Derek Mobley from ESPN, director of Monday Night Football, as well as Dylan Sin, Kyle Denrip as well. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.